Story 1. On a positive note, the secret I would like people to know is that anesthesia as a field is incredibly safe. We get very sick patients through surgery every day. For young, healthy people, you would almost have to try to make something go wrong to have a bad outcome. The drugs and safety monitors are much better than they were 20 years ago. We are very skilled at putting people to sleep and waking them up. Statistically, you are safer in the operating room than you are on the road driving to the operating room. Story 2. Licensed massage therapist. We are genuinely not judging any person's body. After the first few massages in our career, we only see the body as groups of muscles. I often hear about people not going for massage because of how they feel about their body. I wish this massage understanding would be shared far and wide. Story 3. I work for the Department of Labor in our state. There are quite a few corrupt employers who do not pay their workers, close their businesses, then reopen under a different name, or fraudulently transfer all their assets to someone else's name. Story 4. Hospitality workers usually do not care as much as you do, but if you are kind to them, they can work magic for you. Story 5. Rinsing your produce with just water removes 99% of the bacteria on it. It is the best thing you can do to prevent foodborne illness. Story 6. Pilot here. We are not flying the airplane unless we know it is safe. Not ever. We are not interested in dying either. Story 7. When we tell you we do not have any more of an item in the back, it is because we really do not have more in the back. Sometimes we do not have a back storage area at all. Story 8. I work in prison and see many people sentenced for causing death or serious injury while driving under the influence who otherwise do not have a significant criminal background. When you think of prison, you might think of drugs, violent crimes, and so on, but this is one of those crimes that can turn an average person into a felon instantly. It is not a secret. Do not drink and drive, or text and drive. Story 9. Document everything. Do not rely on verbal recounting when you go to management at work. Document it, print it, and bring it with you. Simply stating that you have documented something, especially when multiple instances point to an issue, will make management more cooperative. This is sometimes because it shows initiative, calm consideration, and intelligence, and more often because you have the start of a legal case if things go poorly. Story 10. When there is a fire, only the sprinkler closest to the actual fire activates. They do not all go off like in the movies. Story 11. Always ask for a discount when you shop at a pawn shop, at least 20%. They should be able to do that. Also, check dates. When an item has been there for over 6 months, they want to sell it. Story 12. I work at a veterinary clinic, and I have a few points. Yes, your dog or cat needs the rabies vaccine. Rabies is transmissible to humans, and it is deadly. Yes, your pet can have fleas even if they never go outside, if your yard is fenced in, or if you live in a gated community. Fleas do not recognize property lines. Your local veterinarian is not always the best place to take a turtle found on the side of the road. Many veterinary clinics do not treat wildlife, and many do not treat reptiles at all. Story 13. The amount of waste created to fill stores like Walmart and Target with unnecessary novelty products should make you reconsider your buying habits. Story 14. You know how in movies, people take out an old, rare book and immediately wear gloves to handle it? You do not actually need gloves to handle old books in rare or special collections. Having freshly washed, dried hands is best practice. Why? Because when you wear gloves, you are more likely to accidentally rip a page since you cannot feel it as well as you can with bare hands. The only time gloves are worn is when handling artifacts, moldy items, poisonous books, usually arsenical, refer to the Winterthur Poison Book Project, and photographs. These are not the cotton white gloves you see in media, but a pair of well-fitting nitrile gloves. Also, your old Bible is not as rare or valuable as you might think. The same applies to your book collection. Many people believe their Bible is extremely rare, but it is not. The Bible is one of the most printed books. We have hundreds of Bibles in our collections. Please stop donating Bibles. Story 15. Librarian here. If you come to talk to us about book damage or call to give us a heads up that it is being returned damaged, We will be much more willing to work with you to forgive damage fines than if you return it and hope we do not notice. Story 16. Most modern homes, including residential construction and apartments, are built with inexpensive materials. I am not sure they will last more than 30 years without requiring significant exterior refurbishment. Story 17. Dental professional here. We cannot always tell if you floss or not. In most cases, it is very evident when someone has great oral hygiene and flosses. However, some people can get away with skipping flossing, likely due to good genetics. Story 18. We all talk about what terrible parents you are, if you are, and how much your kids struggle because you are raising them to be similar. Story 19. Worked in information technology outsourcing for 2 decades. If you knew the outdated programming, lax report security, and general disdain for technology that the largest financial institutions have for their data production, you would keep your money in mattresses. Story 20. Former fast food manager. Believe it or not, nobody is intentionally trying to mess up your order. We are generally making thousands of orders a day, with constant pressure to be faster. Every once in a while, things go wrong or we miss something. We are happy to fix it if you bring it back, and even more so if you are polite about it. Story 21. It is incredibly dangerous to cut in front of a tractor trailer. We try to keep at least a 2.5 second following distance because we are not able to stop if anything happens suddenly on the road. My gross vehicle combination weight is usually at or around 100,000 pounds. It takes more than a football field length to stop. Story 22. Information technology departments generally emphasize delivering the product quickly to satisfy management, rather than ensuring it is done correctly. Story 23. Software developers need time to write code. Keeping us locked in useless Scrum ceremonies and endless meetings does not get work done. Edit. Just a fun fact, I calculated the past 5 months of meetings. Our development team had an average of 29 hours of meetings per week. No, that is not a typo. Management is not receptive to any kind of streamlining. Yes, I am looking for a new job. Story 24. As a casino dealer, we are standing at the same table you are sitting at. We can hear you talking about sensitive and incriminating topics. As a nurse, we already know your medical history. You do not need to lie about addictions or embarrassing health issues. We are not going to judge you over details because we need to do our job properly. Story 25. Airline ticket and gate agent. When we tell you we do not know why a flight is delayed or canceled, we truly do not know. You often get updates on your application before we are informed of a delay. We agree that the baggage fees are excessive. We do not set these fees. Our job is simply to collect them. We want you to board the plane as much as you want to be on it. Creates a lot of extra work for us to rebook. Story 26. Prescription drugs in America do not need to cost nearly as much as they do. Pharmaceutical companies waste money like no one else. In most cases, the company charges the maximum amount the market will bear. It is a moral dilemma I struggle with daily. Story 27. I work in materials testing for industries like automotive, aerospace, and defense. Our secret is that we do not compromise. Specifications are strictly followed. We terminate employees for cutting corners on paperwork. I was once called into a conference room and reprimanded for 2 hours, not because I used equipment that was out of calibration, but because I was in the same room as someone who did. That person was suspended for a week without pay. We regularly undergo audits to ensure compliance with standards and regulations that are enforced internationally. Why? Because when people in my field cut corners, people can die, often in severe ways. Falsifying documents in my line of work is a felony. Story 28. A lot of us truck drivers suffer from soul-crushing depression due to loneliness. Speaking as an owner of my own truck, many of us are always one breakdown away from losing everything. Story 29. Theater tickets are very expensive because making theater is costly. However, if you have a local professional theater whose shows interest you, there are many opportunities to get free or discounted tickets. Volunteer ushers usually get to see shows for free. A look for pay-what-you-can nights, sometimes on specific nights or by opening tickets to pay what you can shortly before the show to fill seats. Theaters post discount codes on their social media pages. They offer special discount nights like previews and college night. If you have a local library card, you might be able to check out passes to see shows for free. Many people working at theaters focus on paying the bills through ticket sales and donors. We appreciate their efforts. Everyone working at a theater wants full houses and for as many people as possible to enjoy the show. Finding out a show you worked hard on is selling out is very rewarding for those involved. Story 30. Heavy equipment operators tend to be tired, surly, and addicted to at least a few things. It is genuinely good practice to stay well away from any piece of heavy equipment. We appreciate when you are not around. Story 31. Maybe not so much of a secret, but I work in retail. My section alone generates the equivalent of 5 people's worth of garbage for every restock, which happens quite often. So every time you are trying to find a plastic-free alternative at a store, remember that there is probably someone in that store right now throwing out 40 times more trash. That being said, always strive to reduce your garbage load. Story 32. An appraisal of your home is literally and legally someone's opinion. There are general guidelines that apply, but within that framework, it can vary widely. Story 33. As an architect, now retired, 50% of married couples who undertake a major, such as down to the studs, house remodel, end up in divorce. Story 34. Our field is being taken over by private equity. We work with children with special needs. You will get overworked analysts and therapists with poor training and supervision, and the children will suffer as a result. Some things should not be run for profit. There is also fraud involving users. Some agencies train people to exaggerate their children's symptoms and use us as babysitters. This issue needs to be addressed as well, but it will not be because there is profit to be made on both sides. Story 35. You know how every movie about a profession gets that profession hilariously wrong? Well, I used to be a journalist, and most movies about journalism are pretty accurate. I think it's because whoever wrote the script probably wasn't a firefighter or bomb diffuser, but they probably were a journalist. Story 36. As a hospital nurse, I have been asked more than once by doctors, what do the other doctors usually do for that? Doctors who are willing to ask are the good ones. If you have a doctor that never admits they do not know something, we know they are one to stay away from. Story 37. Antibiotic resistance is far worse than most people realize and could eventually lead to an extinction-level event. Story 38. Maybe not a big secret, but after more than 30 years as a therapist and clinical supervisor, almost everyone, excluding children, is their own worst enemy. Whatever struggle, issue, or problem you have, the solution starts with you doing something differently. However, far too many people prefer to either blame others, are unwilling to change, or both. Children and adolescents are often more amenable to change and taking responsibility for themselves than many adults. Second, despite this, therapy has similar outcomes to most chronic physical health problems, typically between 40 and 60% positive outcomes for patients. The reasons for unsuccessful outcomes are also the same: unwillingness to make changes, especially lifestyle changes that lead to healthier outcomes. If a doctor prescribes medicine, it will only work if you take it. If you and your therapist develop a plan for change, it will only work if you try it, give it time, and make adjustments when needed. Story 39. Sex and relationship therapist here. The thing we cannot say but want to with maybe 50% of couples is just go get a divorce already. Story 40. Painter here. Residential and commercial painting bids are almost always inflated. Never pay to receive a bid. They should always be free. Make sure to get multiple bids from different sources. Unless you are requesting a unique service or an art mural, material and labor costs are easily calculated per square foot of specific surfaces. Ask for an itemized bid if you feel the contractor is being dishonest. Any contractor who gives you pushback for an itemized bid is likely unwilling to put good effort into the project. Do not accept "we don't do that" when requesting itemized bids, as it is an excuse for poorly managed businesses. Industrial and commercial coatings specialist. Story 41. Old people are just like you and me. They are witty, smart, wise, sexual, sarcastic, cynical, generous, considerate, patient, frustrated, all that and more. Please treat them with the respect and love you would show your best friend, not like a toddler. They may be a little bit deaf or slower to talk than you, but they are not stupid. Oh, and they have a name. It is not dear, love, or darling. Use their name. Story 42. If you pay your kitchen staff enough to care about properly cleaning and maintaining the equipment in your restaurant, it will last much longer. Story 43. We do not psychoanalyze random people that we meet in social settings, acquaintances, or even close friends. Our parents and siblings? Yes, we very much diagnose them in our heads. Story 44. Go to class. Even if you do not pay attention, you will accidentally learn. Do not skip. It does not work. Story 45. It is remarkably easy to become a best-selling author. It is a simple trick of gaming the market. Edited to elaborate since many people are asking. 1. There are multiple lists that authors aim for, the two major ones being USA Today and the New York Times. USA Today is easier to get onto because it counts ebook sales, whereas the New York Times does not. Publishers often offer various exclusive benefits to pre-orders to drive first-week sales, which is crucial for list placement. Think exclusive content, swag, and similar incentives. Publishers sometimes bulk buy thousands of copies of a book, which they then report to the lists as bona fide sales. These books are then discarded. Publishers partner with various organizations, such as corporate and educational institutions, to bulk buy books, which appear as authentic sales to the lists. Publishers pay bookstores to showcase the book, often under the guise of a staff pick. Those staff favorites at Barnes & Noble are often paid placements. Publishers create multiple versions of the same book to game Amazon's lists. Some authors have been known to use shady marketing firms to manipulate their way onto bestseller lists. Publishers use manipulative category choices to place their books in categories with little competition, making it easier to reach number 1. Story 46. Threatening violence will not get you released from a psychiatric unit sooner. Our job is to help you not hurt yourself or others. Story 47. Tugboat captain pushing barges on the rivers. Every one of those tugboats is steered by a very bored pilot who is looking at their phone 95% of the time, maybe even doom-scrolling Reddit. They glance up every 20 seconds or so, then go right back to their phone. If you are a recreational boater, stay out of the way. Do not assume they see you because they do not. They are on their phone. I am shocked more weekend warriors do not get run over. Story 48. I don't know if it is really a secret, but when an animal shelter lists a dog as a certain breed and mix, we are guessing. We are not even sure the breed we listed is accurate. A lot of dog DNA does not show physically, and most breeds share their physical features with other breeds, so it is actually incredibly difficult to identify without a DNA test. Those tests are too expensive and impractical for a dog shelter. But if it looks like a husky and barks like a husky, it is probably a husky. I mention this because I see many posts of people being surprised that their rescue is not the breed that was listed. Story 49. You know all those corporate emails and Teams or Slack messages you think no one else can see? Sorry, we see them all. The same applies to your browsing history. Story 50. Everything you do online is traceable and fed into advertising platforms. Speaking for myself, I am aware how much of my anxiety comes from targeted content, organic by the algorithms but more insidiously paid content by advertisers. People selling you nonsense over email or phone know more about your online activity than you think. Account-based marketing platforms, if the user is careless enough online, show me company, username, job title, when they visited my clients' websites, which products they saw, clicked, and sometimes contact information, IP address, etc. We advertise on Reddit too. Story 51. If you eat Bluebell ice cream, there is a strong chance rainwater seeped into the packaging and it was sent out regardless. Story 52. The name brand eyewear like Gucci, Versace, and Coach are some of the worst quality. I would never recommend them to anyone. Total waste of money. You are paying for the logo only. Also, sometimes if your glasses come back too quickly, we will hold on to them for a few days longer so you think the lab took their time making them. Too quick of a turnaround makes it feel rushed and is rarely seen as a good thing. Story 53. You do not have to top off your refrigerant, also known as Freon, in your air conditioner every year. If someone tells you that, ask where it is leaking. Do not trust a plumber who bites their nails. Story 54. Yes, some of the workers are undocumented. They do a lot of the work others will not or cannot do. We also do a lot of the work they will not or cannot do. During our season, they show up at 6 a.m. and leave at 7 p.m. every day of the week. Twice a month, they cook large meals for everyone, out of their own pockets. Some of us have to hide money in their bags and belongings to get them to accept it. I have watched them make and serve their own food to people wearing Make America Great Again hats, with a smile. I love them, every single one of them. Story 55. I worked for a large bank. My team's job was to determine how many additional fees we could add before losing customers. Losing some customers was acceptable as long as we increased revenue. Story 56. The kind, progressive individuals you hear on public radio often operate in a cutthroat environment where subtle hazing is common. Story 57. Restarting your computer or updating your system solves half of all problems. The next 25% is user error, which you create yourself. Then, 10% is hardware failure, and the rest is a bug in the program. Story 58. Just admitting you are turning in an assignment late because you were at a college party and had a bit too much will generally get you much farther than a tired excuse like your 8th grandmother is in the hospital on death's door this semester. We were one student too. Story 59. Nobody at the veterinary clinic is in it for the money. The veterinarian is likely the only person in the building making a livable wage. Be kind. Story 60. Water operator. Everyone should be aware of the dangers of and polyfluoroalkyl substances in the water. Additionally, some bacteria are becoming increasingly resistant to antibiotics. Story 61. Most large companies that develop their own internal software are one bad day away from entire systems failing and their public image being damaged because the code is poorly implemented or the developers who created it have left or been laid off. Story 62. In those cremated remains, glass sculptures, and cremation diamonds, almost all of the remains have been burned away, so it is really just the glass. Funeral home worker. Story 63. Anonymous employee surveys are not truly anonymous. I spent nearly 50 years in market research. If we really want to know who completed a survey, we can find out. Story 64. Not from my current job, but when I was an economist working for the Department of Housing and having meetings with the Treasury. It was an open secret that ending homelessness, or at least nearly ending it, was cheaper than not doing so. However, it was considered political suicide and not addressed. The two biggest reasons are, it would require a larger upfront investment, but not as much as you might think, and it would be recouped rapidly. And governments are notoriously short-term thinkers, focusing on the next election instead of the long term. So, initiatives that show the biggest results in 4 or more years are a no-go. Additionally, there is a significant and influential number of voters who are instantly turned off by giving people something for free. Many think, I did not get it that easily. I worked hard for my life. Low lives are leeching on us hard workers. Even if such programs also benefit them, reduced homelessness has a significant return on investment for governments by reducing future spending, which improves outcomes for everyone. Story 65. Restaurant worker. If you are rude to the waitstaff, do not be surprised if your food takes longer. We are not spitting in it, but no one is in a rush. Story 66. Hospice does not kill, assist, or do anything to hasten death. The majority of home hospice patients improve if they receive care for over 3 weeks. Hospice does not make much money. It is more of a community service. Hospice is there to teach everyone present how best to care for your loved one. No is always an answer, but guilt lasts forever. Story 67. I cannot speak for all hotels or motels. At this property, we will not freely cancel a reservation if the date is within 72 hours of the intended cancellation, such as trying to cancel a Saturday reservation on Thursday. However, we will move the date of a reservation for free, provided it was made directly with us and not through a third party like Booking.com. This is an oversight on our part. I assume most hotels manage this issue more effectively. Simply move the reservation to next week. Now that it is more than 72 hours away, you can cancel for free. Give it a try. Story 68. Your air conditioner rarely needs a full replacement. Many private equity firms have acquired small, locally owned heating, ventilation, and air conditioning companies and promote full replacements because there is more profit in a $10,000 installation compared to $500 to replace a fan motor or capacitor. Story 69. Notaries in most states are not trained and often perform their duties without formal preparation. If your notary makes an error that requires you to have the signature notarized again, resulting in a financial loss, you may sue the notary for your loss. Story 70. You could easily do what I do yourself. What you are paying me for is the fact that I have the tools, materials, experience, and truck to haul away the debris. You are welcome. I work in basements and crawl spaces, waterproofing and foundation repair. Story 71. Security guard. In an active shooter event, we are not going to protect you. We will head to the nearest safe exit and call the police. Story 72. I work in clothing at Costco. You know how you grab the shirt from the bottom of the stack because you think it is the cleanest? Sorry, it is not. They move tables around so much that it is very likely the bottom of the stack was the top of the stack yesterday, and so on. Story 73. Healthcare worker in a hospital setting here. Resident physician. If you go to the emergency department or are hospitalized, call and ask for an itemized bill. It will make your actual cost lower since there are otherwise many unnecessary fees. You can also ask to speak to a financial advocate. You can negotiate for a lower price or see what financial assistance programs or payment plans you can use. Many hospitals also have hardship waivers for a few days of short-term rehabilitation, or supplies for short-term medications. They also have charity care programs and can offer sliding scale discounts. Regardless of whether you have insurance, you can ask about these options. I always share these with patients since I strongly dislike the upcharge. Story 74. Hairstylist here. If you always end up with a crooked haircut no matter how many different salons you visit, you probably just have a crooked head. Never in the history of the human race has there ever been a perfectly symmetrical face. Everyone has one ear or eye that is slightly larger, smaller, higher, or lower. The difference is that great stylists know how to create the illusion of symmetry. Story 75. Being rude to hospitality workers will not get you what you want. It will get you talked about negatively by all of the servers, hosts, and kitchen staff for the next year. Story 76. It's not strangers, drag queens, or LGBTQ people that you, especially kids, need to worry about. It's the men in the family. After working 11 years at a crime laboratory doing DNA analysis, I have not encountered a child rape kit with a transgender person as the suspect. However, there are thousands involving fathers, stepfathers, mothers, boyfriends, stepbrothers, grandfathers, and others. If you want to protect children, start there. Bathroom bills are not really protecting children. They just divert attention from actual threats. Story 77. Never pay more than your explanation of benefit states. If the provider tries to bill you more, contact your insurance company and have them three-way call your provider. It is much easier to pay the correct amount the first time than to try to get a refund from your provider, especially small clinics or hospital systems with questionable practices. Also, never trust your provider regarding your insurance coverage. Always confirm with your insurance company and obtain a call reference number. I used to process many benefit exceptions for members who received incorrect information from United Healthcare, and that call reference number really streamlines the process. Story 78. Therapist here. Clients are hospitalized only when they pose a clear and present danger to themselves or others. If you are scared to tell a professional how badly you are hurting, start every sentence with, "I am not going to hurt myself, but..." This will ease their nerves and help them focus on how to help you hold on. If you intend to hurt yourself, say so. A short stay in the hospital is better than eternity in the grave. Story 79. A lot of times in retail, particularly popular beauty brands, when they have a big sale on best-selling favorites or feature a brand artist claiming favorite products, these are actually products they are having trouble selling. Not all and not always, but very often. Story 80. Most people who work in government agencies are not evil individuals in suits plotting against you in a dark room. They are regular people who are passionate about a specific field and could be earning much more money in the private sector if they chose to. I was not surprised at all by how many government employees declined Elon Musk's offer to pay them to leave because they are not motivated by money. Story 81. Most people who work at a library are library associates. A librarian requires a master's degree in library science. Also, library workers do not spend all day reading, if they read at all. Story 82. Truck driver. We can see how close you come to death every day. So many careless drivers cause near misses. Story 83. Everything after a question mark in a uniform resource locator can be removed because it is used to track you. You usually see this when people share a post directly from social media. Story 84. Veterinary professional here. Even after extensive education and many years on the job, we earn a comparatively low salary. We are not in it for the money at all. Many of us have significant debt. We do this because we love animals and medicine and want you to have the best life with your pets. If we did not care, our industry would not have some of the highest suicide rates. Pets are a privilege. It is your responsibility to pay for their care and reduce suffering when they get sick, even if that means saying goodbye sooner than you would like. Story 85. No, really, the internet is not slow. It is your computer with many tabs open in Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, or Mozilla Firefox. Story 86. The federal government is generally made up of people who want to work and serve the public. There is no more waste here than in any other job I have ever had. Story 87. I work at a preschool. The requirement to work at some centers is just a background check. As long as you are an adult who is not on any sex offender registry, they will hire you. My friend's ex-wife is a preschool teacher. She was charged with domestic violence for attacking her ex-husband with a pair of scissors. She still works as a preschool teacher to this day. Research your children's teachers. Story 88. Cemetery manager. If your cemetery requires you to buy a vault, buy the cheapest one. They all get waterlogged. None are waterproof regardless of their lining or coating. Do not fall for misleading claims. Story 89. I'm a Chuck E. Cheese repair technician. Please watch your children. We all have work to do, and while we try to keep everything safe, we are not responsible for supervising your children. We are not bringing back the animatronics. Most of us dislike the trampoline idea. We do not reuse pizza. It is easier and more cost-effective to make a new one than to reuse pizza. We do not sanitize the tokens or the balls. Germs from children who have picked their noses or scratched themselves may be present. Story 90. The more famous a film or television composer is, the less likely they are to actually write the music. They often become producers for younger composers writing cues under the umbrella of the famous composer's name. Story 91. Many people tend to have a control mentality when working with children. They expect children to listen to every command they give. What really works is a comfort mentality. Be genuine with your approach and remember that you cannot control anything besides your own behaviors. If a child does not listen, empathize and gently remind them of the consequences of their choices. Story 92. Most grocery stores receive products from the same distributor as other grocery stores. They send us X's cakes, and we donate them. Story 93. It sounds appealing to be a venture capital investor, but at its core, venture capital is a sales job. You are selling founders on taking your money and selling limited partners on giving you capital to invest in founders. It is all about sales. Story 94. Even though we are technically not supposed to because it would be like making a resident rely on a care worker who does not have a mention in their care plan and legally should not, many care workers buy items for the residents. For example, spare clothes if they arrived with none. Also hygiene products for the shower or specific brands of biscuits or soups if the resident expresses a craving to taste them again. It is frowned upon because our job is to shower and dress them, and we should not have to buy items for them, but people do it anyway out of kindness. I am in the camp of it is okay as long as it is not food, because if it is food, care workers could inadvertently disrupt a resident's diet plan without knowing. Story 95. The poultry industry, which also applies to beef, faces challenges with bacteria such as salmonella in chicken throughout its life cycle. Good practices can reduce contamination levels, making it easier for processing plants to minimize bacteria to nearly zero. However, there is no guarantee that chicken can be completely free of bacteria all the time. Consumers must ensure that chicken is cooked to a minimum internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 15 seconds to kill bacteria. They must also practice safe handling to avoid cross-contamination of other cooking or food preparation surfaces with raw chicken. Beef has similar concerns with Escherichia coli, but there are different precautions involved in processing. If the United States improved public understanding of science, solutions like radiation treatment before packaging could be used effectively. However, many fear radiation due to misconceptions. This mistrust of science has worsened since 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic, as people are less inclined to trust scientific experts because of fear-driven misinformation. Story 96. Most handheld laser pointers are not tested to verify the power level indicated on the warning label, which means any of them can be unsafe for the eyes and capable of causing permanent eye damage. Green laser pointers are especially problematic. Green lasers start as an invisible infrared laser that passes through a frequency doubling crystal, converting the infrared to green light. Low-quality brands use poor-quality crystals that do not efficiently convert the infrared. So in addition to the green light, a significant amount of infrared light is also emitted. They compensate for the poor crystal by increasing the power, which results in even more infrared light being emitted. Therefore, laser pointers are dangerous. Do not point them where the beam can reflect off the floor and into your pet's eyes. Story 97. Never answer questions. Never volunteer information. Only provide what you are legally obligated to provide. Nothing more or less. Story 98. The number of babies and children murdered and tortured by the partners of the mothers is astonishing. The things people do would keep a civilian awake all night, staring at the ceiling. Story 99. It is not uncommon to admit emergency room patients for observation, even if it is not necessary. I have been in many hospital board meetings where the chief executive officer told floor staff to increase admissions in order to bring in more income for the hospital. What goes on during those meetings is sickening and one of the leading reasons I left the healthcare field. Story 100. Teacher here. We are overwhelmed with trying to get test scores because it affects funding. However, we just want to teach your children how to read and do math. We are not trying to indoctrinate anyone. Story 101. All the clients who know exactly how my job should be done should just do it themselves. Wading through all the nonsense you think you know only makes it harder for me to help you. Please be my guest. Represent yourself. A lawyer. Story 102. I have worked in several professions in my life. Restaurants cut corners wherever possible. Margins are thin, and most places will use items up to and sometimes beyond the point of expiration. Any accountant will tell you that every company, regardless of its industry, wastes large amounts of money on random things while also penny pinching in equally random ways. Company leadership often hides their questionable activities deep in the back of corporate books. These are so well concealed that even with strong suspicion, most people would struggle to find anything specific. People joke or are genuinely paranoid about the government knowing everything about them. I can assure them that this is true, but companies know far more and profit from it. The only comfort is that you and those around you are average, and there is nothing unique enough to make them target you. Story 103. In many states that rejected Common Core state standards for being too confusing or different, the state standards used instead to effectively appease angry parents are literally the same standards with the state's name and seal added. The outrage was fake and generated by social media. Those angry about it did not actually read either set of standards. Story 104. I work in the school office. The school portraits are printed and parents can send back the ones they do not want with payment for the ones they do want. You can also keep all of them. Many times, the office shreds all the photos for the photo company because we do not have time to keep track. We simply send the check to them. We do not get paid enough to count the photos, nor is it our job. We honestly will not know if you never send them back. Story 105. Artificial intelligence was originally developed to make guesses with partial data. When you ask artificial intelligence something, it may provide inaccurate information. It is very hard to fix unless you are able to give it access to every single source and every possible way of asking for that information. Story 106. The United States education system is far more problematic than you might imagine. Every metric used to measure success is biased. Many students get multiple attempts to pass basic tests to keep graduation rates looking strong. The standardized tests your state employs have backup tests, and multiple additional backup tests ready for emergencies. The problem is that those emergencies apply to about a third of the entire student population. However, this is not apparent because all results are combined to maintain high pass rates. Since the COVID-19 pandemic began, I have witnessed dozens of students graduate without being able to spell their own names or tie their own shoes. I work in one of the most prestigious counties in the country. Educators in the lowest performing counties deserve significant recognition and support. Most of these issues come from parents who refuse to accept their children's failures, governmental entities that lower standards to improve appearances, and students who cheat continuously and are not caught due to lack of effective detection and reporting methods, despite cheating being obvious. Even now, spell check tools sometimes incorrectly flag correct words. The situation is serious. Story 107. Vinyl records are far less expensive than you think, but only if you are a record store or retail outlet. Distributors will sell records at nearly cost with a suggested manufacturer's retail price that is 30 to 40% higher. Story 108. Calling emergency services because you were on hold with non-emergency for 5 minutes does not improve hold times for anyone. After the call about your fireworks noise complaint, with nothing on fire a mile from you, there was a baby not breathing. Unfortunately, that baby died. This really happened during one of my calls. They were on hold on emergency services because people called 911 when they could not sleep. Story 109. Be sincerely nicer to and do not underestimate administrative professionals. We are creative problem solvers, can recognize nonsense when it walks in the door, remember everything, and often have a deciding vote as to when and if you make it into important spaces. Story 110. Christian clergy here. Many of us do not believe what we are preaching, yet we truly care about the people we work with. Also, most of us are broke and struggling just to pay bills and survive. Story 111. Exercise a lot. Eat fruits, vegetables, and a handful of nuts each day. Do not smoke or drink alcohol. I would be irrelevant. Cardiologist. Story 112. Magazines and brands have artificial intelligence crawlers for Reddit and social media that they use as inspiration to create their content. Not surprising news, but something to be aware of. Story 113. Dog groomers in North America are completely unregulated. Anyone can call themselves a dog groomer and open their own salon, regardless of training, experience, or attitude toward animals. Story 114. High school social studies classes in the United States are often used to fill positions with coaches who give passing grades to all students. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.